welcome to our Hear It. This is we're here from ePianos and Whitley Bay Organs, and today I'm pleased to have for our Christmas edition Paul Herrington, who's from Oxfordshire, where our shop is. But we're pleased to have a Genos here, the amazing Paul Herrington. We're going to learn a bit about him and learn about some of his music that he's playing. I can see we've got lots of you watching us. I can't go all the names, there's many of you here. I see we've got somebody in Rhode Island watching, which is probably going to be one up for the distance watchers. And we are a shop in Oxfordshire in England, and we cater for organists, for pianists, for beginners, for professionals, and we cover the pianos too. Now we've got a little thumbs up at the bottom of your screen. We'd be really grateful if you could press that. That gets more people to know that we're doing these kind of shows. But today we've got Paul Herrington here, and it's great to have you here, Paul, with us.
It's good to be here.
And we'd like to know a bit about you, really. How did you start off playing?
Oh gosh. Basically, I went to Sunday school when I was obviously very young, and spotted that I could come home and actually go onto the piano and start playing tunes that I'd learnt. So I started having lessons, and that was in Bradford in Yorkshire. And not only was I getting into music lesson-wise, but I was going to concerts and hearing things like Handel's Messiah, which you've just heard part of it, also using my voice to sing in a local chapel, and was also a member of the Life Boys, which is a junior version of the Boys Brigade. So, and into things like music festivals where I was playing piano solos until I moved away from Bradford when I was about 11. So that's where it all started.
Okay, well, you were using the choir sounds there, I noticed. That was quite impressive to... So that was all that you were playing, you pre-recorded, and we're going to talk about this. Some of the songs you play, you put a backing track in through many tracks maybe, or one track,
yeah,
and then join in with it.
Yeah, it's called multi-tracking.
Multi-tracking.
Or layering.
And you're using the audio or the MIDI recording?
I'm using the audio recording. Okay. I tend to work on doing the MIDI first and then transferring it across to audio, because if I wanted to alter the MIDI file, I can go back in and do it.
Yes.
But once it's audio, it's difficult.
That's
you
it,
can't.
locked in.
That's
yeah.
it. It's locked.
Okay. Well, I'll let you play your next song. I know you're going to play "Walking in the Air" from us, which is quite a good Christmas song to be playing. And I don't know how much setting up you're going to do. Is this with the backing track as well?
It is, yes, multi-tracked.
Multi-track.
And then piano on top.
Okay. So you're playing the piano, and the other tracks are playing the accompaniment.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely.
But you had to program them in.
I've had to program them in. Right. Okay, here we go.
Walking in the Air, fab. Multi-track, you've got to press the right play button.
Yeah, absolutely. Here we go.
That's nice. Thank you, Paul. It's really nice. So you're using the piano this time. Obviously, there's lots of things like keeping in time with what you're playing and all the bits not being too many extra bits added in.
I treat this really a bit like singing with karaoke, because you basically are kept in time all the time. So you basically are listening very carefully to what's going on with all the orchestra instruments or whatever.
That you've programmed.
I programmed in and then play that live. So you really are, it's a listening skill really.
Yeah, and through years of your experience, you've obviously been able to build up more skills in doing that, I'm sure. You started off as a teenager, then I gather you were in the Boys Brigade playing the bugle.
Yes. When we lived in Bradford, we eventually moved to the Isle of Wight because my dad was a church minister, and I got involved then with the local Boys Brigade, where I was playing the bugle, which gave me an experience of marching through the city as well, the town.
Great.
So I had that experience of the brass instruments, and then I think I got involved in the school playing with the orchestra, playing a violin as well. So violin, bugle, trumpet. They gave me a tuba, which was too big for me, and so the teacher said, "Try the trumpet," which I did.
Perfect.
Okay.
And then after that, you went to Academy of Music, didn't you?
Yeah, basically on the Isle of Wight, I eventually got to grade 8 piano, and decided I wanted to go to college. So I got a distinction in grade 8 with sight reading, which is where you put a piece of music in front of you and you have to play it. So the examiner assesses it. Anyway, so then I left the island in 1965 and got a place at the Royal Academy of Music to do piano and violin. Well, I didn't really cope with the violin, so then I transferred to playing the organ because I thought that would be quite useful.
Yeah, and playing the piano now, obviously that's helped you a lot. What you're doing is something beyond what I could do, but that's from your grade 8 piano tuition and
what I did at college as well. So you're all developing keyboard skills of how to get from one position to another in the time that you've got.
Yeah.
So it's speed across the keyboard.
And one thing we were talking about earlier was how much practice makes a difference.
My theory is practice makes progress. People say it makes perfect. It does not.
Never.
Because even the professionals make mistakes. But the trouble is they know how to get out of it. Whereas people have got to keep plodding away, to making sure that they can actually... It's mental. You know, what goes on in the head and the eyes and the ears transfers itself down to the fingers. So it's a lot of hard effort.
Well, you've proved that you've been obviously practicing quite a lot. Now, I gather you're going to play us a medley, but I'd like to say hello to a few people. You've probably got some buttons to set up on your
that's fine.
keyboard. Paul's had a Genos since they were launched. Before that, Tyrus's. He's a great customer of ours, as many of you are, and we like to support everybody in lots of ways. This Hear It show that we're doing today is on the back of another one that Paul did for us that you can go back and find, where he's playing lots of other music that he's played. I'll say hello to a few people that are watching. I know Christine de Quavain, hello, you're out there, happy Christmas. And to Susie Drage, nice to have you with us today, Susie. And Lynn Fisher, and Andy Long, Sue King, hi Sue. And Patricia Young, nice to have you. I'll try and go through lots of your names, but there's so many watching. It's great to have you all joining us this morning. And I can say over to you, Paul, for the medley.
Can I just explain this medley?
Absolutely.
What I did for a local brass band, I actually did a score on the program called Sibelius, and then made an MP3 of that and transferred that MP3 across to the Genos. So what you're actually hearing is on the Genos a full brass band, and I'm playing the piano on top. Okay, so here we go.
all those notes. That is so good. So we'll just go back to this Sibelius thing. You're using a program called Sibelius. I know the other ones are available, but there's a cut down version for like £120.
Yeah.
But the one you use is £400 or £500.
Yeah.
And you're playing every track into the notation.
There are several ways you can use Sibelius, and I'm one of that hasn't got into the really real version, which you can actually go from a keyboard straight into Sibelius. So I tend to probably the slow way around, which is inputting every particular bit of music into the program.
With a computer, note by note?
Yeah, it's a notational program.
Okay, but you can play it in off a keyboard, can't you?
Oh yeah, I mean, yes, you can do. I haven't worked that one out.
Okay, it's probably easier.
I think so, yes. It's a long way around,
yes.
But it's a notational program. There are other programs which actually do record actually live exactly as you play it and then turn it into a notation.
Yeah, I mean, the Genos will do that for you.
Yes, I know.
And it will even change the notes. You can go into Sibelius afterwards and convert the ones that you made mistakes on or weren't quite right. So it's very powerful. But obviously what you've done is I had a lot of xylophones coming in. I had to remember glockenspiel sounds glock like wood, so it's
Absolutely.
the xylophone that sounds... But it's amazing sounds that you've got in there.
And all those instruments were obviously within the program that are notated.
Yes.
So when you're writing it, you have to think, what do I want, where do I want it, and actually put it in. So what you heard was exactly what was the Sibelius program produced. Well, I put in.
Yeah, and the brass band sounds great, don't they?
It's wonderful.
Really good, yeah. I'll say hello to a few people. Eileen Lowry just said, hello, the great brass band sound. So hi to Eileen and to Ian Martin, to Keith Darville, Bill Shorthouse, to Mike Piggott, Colin White. Good to have you with us today, Colin. So it's great to have all you people watching today. And we're not really doing questions and answers like we have done before, because it's more of a hear it, where we're just going through what Paul's capable of and hearing a bit about Paul's life to learn into his journey into music. Now, after the brass band, you got into teaching, didn't you?
Teaching? Oh yes. When I finished at college, I thought, what do I do? My teacher said, when I was at college, he said, look, you know, if you want to get married, don't necessarily do a performing bit. He said, but you may think about teaching. So that's what I did. I went down to the teaching line and then became a school music teacher, first of all in Doncaster, and then moved back to Yorkshire, where eventually I became head of music at an 11 to 16 school. And then after that, there all sorts of things happened. But certainly I had the experiences at that time, like being an MD for a local amateur production of Fiddler on the Roof, where I had me on the organ, one tuba player and one clarinet, but we made a joyful sound. So that gave me another attribute to actually think about music theatre, which I enjoy as well.
And you're teaching still now?
I am, but not as I was full-time. I'm going into our local school to help them with their singing and also their recorder playing, because some primary schools don't get much music at all. So I just feel it's right, especially within our local village, to help them out where I can.
That's fab. Well, good for you. That's nice to do that. Now, I gather you're going to do one now called Rocky Merry Christmas, which is a bit
Rocky
of a play on
Merry
words.
Gentleman.
Rocky Merry Gentleman, okay. And can you just turn it down very, very slightly, because I was just getting a little bit of buzz at the top, a little bit of crackle.
Yeah,
so
that's
just
fine.
perhaps a little bit more, just slightly more. Volume down.
Okay.
Down, not up.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Put it the right way.
Thank you. That's fab. And if you can tell us how you're hearing this, is it coming through okay for you? Let us know if it's still crackling at the top end when we're pressing the keys harder and getting that extra volume coming through. It's very easy. I know from playing myself that when you get engrossed in something, you press hard when you want it as loud as it will go. And just in this situation, it's very different when we're on headphones and you're not quite hearing it how perhaps you might be hearing it. So we'd love to hear your thoughts on how the sound is coming across. But let's hear this Rocky Merry Gentleman. Is this something you've written, or is this a piece that
I've arranged it,
this is arranged.
and you've got a copy of the music, so if anybody wanted to have it,
share this. We can
you
email
share
this
it.
out as a PDF to anybody who wants to have a play of it themselves.
Right.
In Paul's fair Sibelius handwriting.
That's right. Okay.
Fab, well done. And we're just going to go to a quick break, and we're back in a couple of minutes. Merry Gentleman, which I'm still getting wrong to say. We've got the music for that. If anybody wants us to send it through, Paul's written it and arranged it, and we can send you a PDF of that piece of music if you'd like to have a go at it. And one of the things I'm realising is I use transpose all the time to make me sound like I'm better and playing in different keys. Paul's doing it all himself, okay? So you may not want to try it at home. Just use that transpose plus and minus unless you're as capable as Paul. But it's great to see that the key changes are really possible by a human rather than a electronic pressing a button up and down and remembering to go back to reset at the end. That's the biggest thing I find is the reset thing. We were talking earlier about some of the choir sounds that Paul was using. He might go up an octave because the range on the keyboard sometimes means that the sound is a little bit low. So one of the things you can do is move the octave of a sound so that you're playing it in the area of the keyboard that you want to. I'll say hello to a few more people. To Hannah Oliver, thanks for joining us today. For Shady, to Kim Barner, Stuart Hayden and Patrick Pike, thanks for joining us. I hope you're enjoying this Christmas edition, only Christmas music. And Paul's now going to do a couple of Christmas carols that he's found styles that he likes for them, and he's made the carols fit the styles, which is always good to do. It's quite nice to change something into something that it wasn't written for, but it totally changes the way the music comes through. So we've got a version of Godkin Wenceslas and Away in a Manger. Like you've probably never heard it before, I'm guessing.
Probably. Yeah, this is called the Irish Christmas and Scottish Christmas, and you work out the style from that.
Okay. And we're back. I'm so sorry about that. We had a technical hitch. These things happen. At least the Genos is still working safely and happily. So my apologies. I was going to say, it's great to see different styles being used for different types of music. Eileen Lowry, who's someone I've been following a long time. I know she's done lots of videos and helped tuition herself. She mentioned how interesting to see the carols used with different styles. And this is something that's great to do, to experiment. You can even search on a Genos or an SX for the same types of swing rhythm or foxtrot or waltz, and then try a variation on the one that you were going to use. I mean, you can go off piece and go to a Latin rhythm or a disco rhythm, but the beauty...
They're singing as well. So the next really items are really all multi-track versions of things like Little Donkey, Rudolph, Jingle Bells, all the things that the kids like singing. So that's what I'm going to do.
Fab. Let's take it away. Yeah, go for it.
Right. Completely different style.
Lovely. Really nice. That's great. Thank you. So we've got quite a lot of things that we've been doing on here. I've noticed some more key changes coming in there without pressing the transpose button.
Absolutely,
so
yeah.
Well done on that. That's always impresses me. A few hellos to say hello to Jonathan Lee, to Albert in France, or maybe Albert in France, to David Martin, Ray Oxbury, Max Green, Graham Punter. Thanks all for joining us. You know, without you, there'd be no point in doing this. So it's really good. We have lots of videos like this, and many on the products and how to get tips from the products on our website. If you go to ePianos.co.uk, there's a support tab, and when you go on there, you've got blogs and videos, and these are all especially to get some tips and tricks and help on using things like the Genos or the Tyros, the SX, the Clavinovas, and there's lots of videos showing you how to do certain recording things or saving your registrations. So go on to ePianos.co.uk, go to support and videos, and then you can pick your instrument and it will show you all about it. The Genos is so powerful, and we all just use a very small amount of the functions within it, which is a shame, but we're never going to get round it all, and I still find things that I didn't realise were on it. You're always finding new bits, aren't you?
Absolutely, and I mean, the technology sometimes is beyond me. I know you can do more to it. So the Yamaha magazine, for instance, gives these ideas as well, which has been useful. Like I learnt from Glyn Madden about looping, which I hadn't even thought about it. But if you want a set chord pattern to improvise over the top, loop it.
Chord looper.
Yeah, chord looper.
Yeah.
Absolutely
but
fine.
There are so many things that you kind of want to do, and then you realise they've already thought about it at Yamaha, and it will do it. It's just a case of finding the right menu to do that. So they're so advanced. And we take a lot of part exchanges, people with the SX or the Tyroses or a different instrument to part exchange for Genos. So we have new and used ones as well. So if you wanted to upgrade to the Genos from your older model, that's something we always do as well. So give a call or an email, and we'll see what we can do for you. Now I want to ask Paul a bit more about keyboards, because Paul teaches and has taught keyboard for many years. Tell us how you started doing the keyboard tuition.
It was basically when I was teaching in Oxford in a middle school, and part of the curriculum I think demanded something more than the usual percussion instruments. Musically as well, it gave so I started with using little Yamaha keyboards in the classroom, and then eventually discovered obviously that you can do more with keyboards. So I eventually bought one, and I can't remember what the model was, but it was a Yamaha. And having contact with the local Yamaha rep as well gave me contact with more keyboards, and then believe it or not, I came across a firm called One Man Band. And it was great. But the thing that struck me was these instruments are instruments in their own right. They're not something to be shoved in a corner. They can be used and are useful for music education. And sometimes there's the issue about, do I have a piano? Do I have a keyboard? I've worked out in my own little mind that actually a child using an electronic keyboard and understanding what a left hand does in terms of chords gives them a foundation far more than perhaps the piano can. Understanding chords, which is often the basis for all composition. So, you know, go down that road if you want to teach a child lots more about sounds, instruments, styles, chords. It's all there in keyboards. It's not on the piano. And what they've done over the years, I've noticed that obviously they've developed the touch sensitivity keyboards, because when you play a piano, it can be totally different to what a keyboard is. But they've developed it now, so it's touch control even on electronic keyboards. They've developed that, which is great. Yeah. So you could use a lot more oomph than you could before. So
it's an interesting one, because we have a lot of people who would say, oh no, you can't learn on the keyboard, it's got to be a proper piano because you won't learn the touch. But the keyboards are actually affordable, they're manageable, and lots of children can start off on a keyboard and still move on to a piano, or go to a synth or to a bigger keyboard. But they're a great way to get started, and people sometimes like to just knock a keyboard as not being musical enough, but it's going to give you all the fundamentals to get started.
Absolutely. Yeah, it does. And it can be fun as well. I mean, I'm not saying that piano isn't fun, because that's how I learned. I learned the piano, but then moved away from the piano to an electronic keyboard, which gave me the facility to actually orchestrate and play in this band. It's homemade. I mean, it doesn't take away the fact that I'd love still to play in a big live band, but it gives me the ability to be able to do it, and to multi-track and to record, do CDs, accompany, and yes, I can transpose with the pressing of a button.
Like I do.
If an instrumentalist comes and says, can I play this piece, and it's a clarinetist, I have to transpose. Now, I can't always do it at sight, but with the help of the transpose button, you
Magic,
can do it.
Isn't it? Magic.
Yeah.
So you set up keyboard tuition in Oxfordshire, didn't you?
No, it already set up. When I was in the middle school system closed down. So then what do? Well, as it happened, I knew the head of the music service in Oxfordshire, and he said, would I go and run the keyboard department? So it meant I went down to various schools and taught keyboards in groups of 4. So you have a keyboard little band. How do you do that? Well, one keyboard plays the trumpet, one keyboard plays the cello, one keyboard plays the violin, or one plays some percussion on it. You've got a band.
It's a good way to start and playing with other musicians is so much more fun. Well, not more fun, but it is great fun to actually play within a group rather than just on your own, isn't it? It makes it more interesting.
And even in schools, right? If, for instance, they've got an orchestra and there's a particular part missing, and they want a trumpeter, keyboard, press the trumpet sound. You've got it. As long as they can play the right notes.
Well, that's important, obviously. That's right. Yeah. Okay, so we've got a few to finish off with. I know it's great to have you with all these carols. We've got Mary Had a Baby. This is one that I think I probably sang at school many years ago. Probably a typical school sing-along.
And this has been actually recorded for our local school carol service, and you'll hear in this transposition through various keys.
Okay.
So here we go, and let's just get the right place. Here we go.
Lovely. So, tell me how much you enjoy playing the Genos.
How much do I enjoy it? I love it. I mean, my wife calls it the Agatha Christie keyboard, because I can actually play it and then I can record it and walk away from it and she thinks I'm playing. So no, it's great because it's given me that ability and facility to actually do something that I love to do live as well. I have had occasion to conduct as well, big orchestras in Oxford. That's thrilling, but you can't always have that at home. Whereas with the Genos, certainly, you can. But the point is that you've got to have that facility to be able to multi-track and be able to do it, so that you can then enjoy and be creative in the playing, if you've got that ability.
I think the thing to multi-track is probably scary to lots of people. It's the sort of thing where, what am I going to add? But it is good to play something and try and join in with yourself, even if you don't record that joining in bit, because you are then improvising and adding something to what you've already played. And you've already played it correctly. So what you're adding is going to be some additional stuff. It might be a different sound, it might be some percussion extra, or it might be something that's over the top, but it's quite nice to try, and it's not that difficult. It's just practice, I suppose, isn't it?
Part of it is actually, in a way, theoretically knowing when you're playing a certain chord what notes you're playing. Right. But it's the quick thinking that enables you to do it, so that you can play around with a certain chord. You can experiment. I usually say to experiment with it.
So you say follow the chord that you're playing with your left hand, and play some of the notes from that chord.
Yeah, just try it and just work around it. There are certain notes which will jar, maybe, to majority of people, but eventually, within music, there's a way that you can just pull it back to sounding okay. Yeah. But you've got to actually listen and know that, for instance, if I'm playing the chord of C, it's C, E, G. But of course, with different ways in which you can play those chords as well, with all the different particular, I can't think of the word, where you can play fingered on bass, or single-fingered, or multi-fingered. So there's all those finger styles in there which can help you. But fundamentally, it's knowing what the chord is that you're playing and then play around with it. It's risky. It is. Because
I like that risk, though. I think it's quite good fun to try, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you're not in public and you're doing it from home, it's even less of a risk to try it out.
People say to me, how do you do it? And in the end, you just analyse it. You think, actually, I'm not fully sure. Yeah. Part of it is an instinct for the sound that you're making, and what works and what doesn't work. And you then eventually, just by trying it and trial and error, you get more confident at it. But if you don't start, you never do it.
So your recommendation is try improvising, record something in, and play along with it.
Yeah, if you've got your chord looper, it will give you how many bars you want, and then you can just forget the chords, the left hand, and you just try around with your right.
Yeah, the chord loop is a really good feature. It's on Clavinovas, on the 709, it's on the SX900, it's on the Genos, and it allows you just to put a sequence of chords in, or a few sequences of different parts of a song, or a chord sequence, and then you can just get it to play back where you join in over the top, and it's great to practice improvisation with it. Now, I want to thank Paul for being here today. It's been a fabulous hour or so. I know we had a bit of a break with some problems in the middle, which I won't sack Charlie for, but thanks for Charlie for doing the rest of it very well, and I hope the sound's been good for you. You know, we wish you a fantastic Christmas. I'm just going to mention a couple of things. There's, John Sullivan asked me a question about the playlist feature, and remember what the playlist is. You can make your own playlist. At the top of the playlist screen, when you go into it, there is a little sheet of music with a plus. And if you press that, that will say, do you want to create your own playlist? You can then add songs, you can search for songs, add them into your playlist that you've made, and then at the end you've got to make sure you go to File and save it and call it a name, and that will make a playlist of your own, and you can make as many as you want. The memory capacity on these keyboards is huge. So yes, you can make a playlist, whether it's Christmas carols or whether it's just your favourite songs that you want to play in a row, and it will find them from the registration area where they're set up as song, music finder songs. Okay, so yes, to John Sullivan, the answer is yes, you can do that. Also, hello to Mark Pringlesleaf. Nice to have you with us today, Mark. And thanks so much for joining us. It's so good to hear a professional playing and get some tips from somebody who play nothing like Chris or me, and like a lot of us. But we can all just learn little tips from it, and it's great to see how an instrument like this is probably being used very differently to a lot of us, but it just adds that extra dimension, and we'll do more of these videos. Hopefully Paul might join us again.
There's just another dimension which I haven't mentioned for using it, and I would have no hesitation if a church was having a problem with their organ, I would perhaps multi-track a hymn and add the organ in on here and use it. And if you've got an amplifier, you know, it can really fill a church.
Church organ on this is found.
I mean, have we got it here? I'm sure we've got it here.
It's in there somewhere.
Let's just go for the voice here. Oh no, it's the wrong one. Don't want that. Yeah. If we go to organ and I put in here this one, you know,
rich, isn't it? It's such a rich sound.
I'm not going to do all of it. What do you do when you get your pedals?
Yeah. It's fab. The echo, the ambience after that's playing is just like you're in a real cathedral.
Building,
and the lower bass, just play one of those basses on their own. Just go down. It's such a rich sound.
And actually, you've got an octave lower as well.
Yeah. And it's amazing how the speakers, even on a Genos, cope with that bass very, very well.
Absolutely,
So
do that.
I love to play just the church organ, maybe the tutty one, and just bring it down an octave and just play that big octave in the left hand. It really gives you a rich and a great feeling. The big beauty of these Genos is, and a lot of the Yamaha keyboards, is you get a really good feeling from playing them because they are exciting and they feel like you're playing a real instrument.
Absolutely, yeah.
Really, really good.
That's one of the reasons why I enjoy this Genos, because it's got those really rich organ sounds.
Yeah, yeah.
And again, churches can cope with it.
So, thank you so much for joining us today. Have a fantastic Christmas. We hope you'll join us again in January for some more of these live videos. And thanks for all your comments today. We're at the end of a phone or an email if you've got any more questions to ask us. And thanks to Paul Herrington from Oxfordshire, a local man, to come and join us. If some of you maybe want to do the same thing, we'll perhaps get you down and do a similar thing in here. It'd be great to have more people come and share their love of music and the keyboards and the pianos. But we're going to finish off with Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, which is quite an apt ending. Thanks so much, Paul.
That's okay.
See you all soon. Thank you very much.